Well, we're joined now on the sofa by Nick Gates from the charity Head Safe Football. And Nick, you know about this personally as well, because your dad, former Middlesbrough player Bill, you saw this decline.
Yeah, I've lived that journey, so a lot of sympathy for all the families. And unfortunately, we're seeing more and more families, both from the professional game and the non-league game, suffering from the same problem.
Do you want to tell us about your dad's journey?
Yeah, my dad was an incredible person, was the first £50 a week teenage footballer, played over 330 games for Middlesbrough. A wonderful life. He was not just a football player, he was a successful business person, a philanthropist. But 14 years ago, he asked me 3 times what time we're going to play golf. And we knew about it. It was not a secret inside football that a lot of players were suffering from dementia. And so we started the journey with him, and he died a year and a half ago.
During that time, how aware was he of what had led to his decline?
No, he was certain. There was absolutely no doubt in our minds, and we did testing all around the world, and so we knew it was CTE. We were also connected with the NFL.
So just explain CTE for people who are watching.
So CTE is chronic traumatic encephalopathy, and it's a collection of tau protein, a clustering of tau protein in the brain, and it's caused by repetitive head impacts.
You're sounding like a scientist. You're sounding like a doctor. I mean, I guess you've had to research and learn all about this because you're so motivated to make sure it doesn't happen to others. Yeah,
we wanted to keep my dad alive, so we went to the science first, and then everything with Head Safe Football is based on science. So Dr. Willie Stewart's research paper funded by the FA showed that footballers are 3.5 times more likely, which we saw in the clip. And so everything we do at Head Safe Football is based on the science of football. And we love football, and we're not trying to ban heading, we're just trying to find a solution to protect the next generation of players.
So what is that solution?
So we think starting with reducing heading in training. So again, we're not trying to take heading out of the game. We love football. My dad, 7 years ago, talking with him, said he wanted to be part of the solution to help the next generation. And so we work with organisations, clubs, players to help them reduce the heading in training, because 90% of heading happens in training.
You're a coach, right?
Yeah. I've worked in football. I was an England international under 18. Football has been my life. And so when I started looking at my own coaching practices, I realised that there was more heading than I thought.
Some of that you can control, you can set the rules, but you'll also see young people, kids, heading the ball in the park. When you see that, now just on a human level, what are you feeling?
So our research at Head Safe Football has shown that players, by the time they're 16, because they're starting younger and they're playing more, are going to have about 15,000 headers by the age of 16. So all we're trying to say to coaches who think they're not doing any heading in practice is to actually look at everything that goes on, and they'll realise that children are playing 4 or 5 times a week. They're playing in their schools, they're playing for the club teams. And unfortunately with my dad, CTE is a young person's disease. It didn't happen as he was older. It was caused because he headed the ball between the ages of 5 and 29.
So is that where you are focused?
Yes, our focus is preventing the next generation, because there's a 30-year problem no matter what happens now. The groups like Alan Shearer and Gary Pallister, all the great players who supported these programmes, it's too late for them in that sense, but the next generation, hopefully we can protect.
How do you persuade a young boy or girl who loves their football and wants to play football like they do on the telly, that this thing called dementia, decades later in their life, is a real threat to them? Because it just doesn't seem like a reality, does it, when you're that young?
It's very difficult in that sense. But as we talk with the young players now and we ask them to treat their brain the same they treat their knee, their hamstring, their ankle, I think that way they've started to understand that it's something that they've got to protect. And we have games in our curriculum that show that the only thing you can't live without in life is your brain. You can get a new knee, you can get new hamstrings, you can get new everything, but the brain can't be replaced. So we're just reducing the conversation from saying the brain's not to be talked about to actually talking about it front and centre.
You said football has been your life. Do you ever worry about what might happen to you? Sure.
Yeah, I mean, now I know so much about it, and having lived it with my dad and seen the symptoms, if I forget something, the first thing I think of is this the start of that. But, you know, it's something that I wouldn't have changed in the sense of playing the game, but I would certainly have changed, as Dean Windass said in an interview recently, he would have reduced the amount of times he headed the ball in training.
Nick, thank you so much for coming in and talking about your dad, and I'm sure we'll speak again about your